Hey fam, Master Coach G here, thriving after 50, mind, body, soul. And in this week's episode, we are uncovering how stress affects our health. Stress affects our health in serious, measurable ways. It's not just a mental or an emotional issue. It impacts our entire body. I'm going to share a clear breakdown of what stress does to our health. This is Master Coach G, and I will see you on the inside. Hey fam, Master Coach G here, thriving after 50. And in this week's episode, we are uncovering how stress affects our health. Stress affects our health in serious, measurable ways, and it's not just a mental or an emotional issue. It impacts our entire body. So what I want to do is I want to share a clear breakdown of what stress does to our health. First of all, our brain takes a hit. Okay, let's just start there. Our memory, our focus suffers because chronic stress shrinks a part of our brain that is crucial for our learning. Okay, it also triggers anxiety, depression, and the whole function of our brain. Stress does that to our brain, so we need to understand that. You're more than likely will have sleep problems, which worsens everything. You know, I always talk about how important sleep is, and it's one of the 4 pillars / principles, if you will. And sleep is really important, but stress can and will affect your sleep pattern. We have what we call the circadian clock. That's just an internal clock in our bodies. And when we are stressing, it throws our rhythm off. Because our circadian rhythm, it has a rhythm. That's why it's called circadian rhythm. So we have to be careful when we're talking about stress. Here's something else that stress affects: our heart. Our heart works overtime, double time, triple time. Stress raises our blood pressure. It raises our heart rate. It increases the risk of disease and strokes. Okay, let me say that again so you can have a clear understanding. Stress affects our heart. Our heart works overtime. It raises our blood pressure and our heart rate, and it increases the risk of diseases and strokes. It causes inflammation in your blood vessels, which is a key contributor to a heart attack. Please understand that. That's the reason why stress kills people, okay? Over time, it wears and tears, and it ages your cardiovascular system a whole lot faster when you're stressing. You know, when I was growing up, my grandfather lived to be 109, and he always told me, even when I was growing up as a little girl, he used to say, don't worry about things that you can't change. And I'm beginning to believe that was a part of the reason why he lived to be 109, because he didn't stress. My grandfather never stressed about anything. But he always told me, don't worry about anything that you can't change, because it does affect your heart, and your heart works overtime. You are setting yourself up. You're putting yourself at risk for a heart attack or a stroke, and even other diseases. Here's another thing that it affects, and this right here is a major key right here, is our immune system. Stress weakens our immune system, okay? Short-term stress affects our immune system, but when you talk about chronic stress, oh my gosh, it absolutely annihilates our immune system. That's the reason why we have to be very careful when it comes to stress. Because when you talk about your immune system, you heal slower, you're more prone to diseases and other issues. Okay, and here's another big one. How about our digestive system? Yep. Have you ever noticed that when you're stressed that your eating patterns are off? That when you're stressed, you're more bloated, you're gas. There's just so many things that happens to our digestive system. Stress disrupts our digestive system. Sometimes it can cause diarrhea. Sometimes it can cause constipation. Sometimes it can cause cramps, bloating, nausea. So yes, stress can disrupt our digestive system. It's even linked to diseases like IBS, and it's also linked to acid reflux and ulcers. So that's why we got to pay attention to our stress levels. When I tell you that it's very, 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 and add about 10,000 more varies to that, important that we manage our stress levels, okay? Stress can lead to overeating or even undereating. Yep, it can. It can increase our cravings for junk food. I know that's kind of crazy, huh? But it can also lead to us not eating, because I know that when I was in the financial services industry, the very stressful industry that I was in at the time, I was like a facilitator working with investors, and very, very stressful job. And stress was through the roof. And my appetite, I had no appetite. I wasn't eating, which created so many other problems. Okay, let's talk about this one, which is our muscles stay tensed. Have you ever noticed that maybe like around your shoulders, around your necks, that you're like always rubbing it because it's always so tight and always so tense? Okay, chronic tense. When you're chronically tense, it can lead to headaches, migraine, jaw clenching, back pain, neck pain. So if you're having any of those symptoms, you might want to check your stress level, because over time this can trigger chronic pain and disorders. You can have all kinds of chronic pain from stress. Okay, here's another thing that it affects: your sex drive and reproductive health. So if you're trying to conceive or trying to have a child, if you're stressing about it, or anything else for that matter, it can definitely affect that. In men, stress can lower the testosterone and their sperm count. Stress. Yep, you heard me. In men, it can lower your testosterone and your sperm count. In women, it can affect our menstrual cycle, which make the symptoms worse for the PMS and our menopause. When we get to a certain age, women, ladies, we do go through menopause, but stress can affect our stages of menopause. We have stages of menopause, and I think I talked about that in another episode a few months back about menopause. But it does, and if you are still having a cycle, ladies, stress can affect that. I don't know if you've ever been in a position where you just came off a cycle, and then like 2 weeks ago, and then all of a sudden you start stressing about something and your cycle comes right back on. That's stress. So that's why we have to pay attention to the things that's going on in our lives. It's not just the mental and the emotional. Yes, that is. But we have to understand that those things affect our health. Okay? Stress isn't just in your head. Okay? If it's left unchecked, it chips away at your health from multiple angles. Okay? And the longer it lasts, the more damage it can do. Okay? So that's why you have to manage your stress through sleep, exercise, and boundaries. Okay, have healthy boundaries. Be mindful. Okay, if you have to have therapy, there's nothing wrong with it. Don't be ashamed because you need to go to therapy, because sometimes that's the only thing that will help us to get through a stressful time. Even with our children, we have to understand that our children are stressed, with all the peer pressure that they go through. We don't even realize, and then we start to see that our children are started, if we're paying attention, pay attention to the things that our children are going through. The things that they say, how they're, if they have movement or changes in their bodies, especially our young ladies, our young girls. I have a granddaughter who's 10, and I can always tell when she's going through something because it starts to affect other things like her health. My daughter went through this thing where, she was in an abusive relationship, and the stress level was out of this world. And so until she was able to free herself from that situation, she was in the hospital every single weekend. Every weekend she was in the hospital. And that was just it was nothing but stress. That's the reason why we have to really pay attention to, the things that we're doing. We have to make sure that we're getting our sleep. We have to make sure that we're getting some type of exercise. I don't care if you're just walking 30 minutes a day. Get outside, get in nature, walk 30 minutes a day, have you a woosah moment, bring yourself down, be mindful, do some deep breathing exercises, get outside, enjoy some sunshine, take a nature walk. But you have to learn how to maintain your stress level. You have to be mindful of your stress level. You have to pay attention to that. And I know that we're living in some turbulent times. A lot of people have lost their jobs. They have kids that's in private schools or college. They don't even know how they're going to continue to be able to pay for that, whether it's their mortgage or their light bill. I know that it's stressful times, but you have to learn how to balance and maintain your stress levels, because if you don't, your health is going to take a beating. You are putting yourself at risk for diseases like strokes, heart attacks, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high A1C, obesity. You are setting yourself up for those things. So please, please, please look at what is stressing you out and get a hold of it, and do some deep breathing, do some praying, do some meditating, whatever it is that you have to do in order to get that under control. I would strongly, strongly advise you to do that, because if you don't, you're going to pay the price for it on the back end. I promise you will, because stress not only puts you at risk for diseases, but it can also kill you. Stress kills people, and I need you to understand that. So if your level of stress is high, then please, please, please eliminate the stress. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Eliminate the stress. And take these things to heart. Take to heart that, your weight can fluctuate. Okay. It affects your digestive system. It affects your immune system. It affects your heart and your brain. So all these things are affected by stress. You can even go into depression behind stress. So please, 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 whatever you do, manage your stress level. And if you are in the process of trying to conceive, then make sure that your stress level is down. Men and women, because it does affect us. And I know that, I don't really talk about men, but in this case, let's talk about that, because it does affect men. Stress does affect them. It lowers their testosterone and their sperm count. So please keep that stuff in mind. You gotta be on top of this stress, because if you don't, stress will be on top of you. And then you will have more problems. Do not leave your stress level unchecked, because it does chip away at your health. Okay? So that's what I have for you today. I hope this episode has been helpful and has added some value to your life. If it has, please share it with someone that it may benefit, who is having some stressful times in their life. Also, subscribe to my podcast, to my channel so that every time that I drop an episode, you will be notified that a new episode has dropped. But before I get out of here, as usual, I have to give a shout out to all my listeners around the world, here in the United States, Canada, Australia, Russia Federation, China, Mexico, Ireland, South Africa, Brazil, Nigeria, United Kingdom, Germany, France, Bangladesh, Ukraine, Kuwait, India, Hong Kong, the Dominican Republic, Philippines, Barbados, Saudi Arabia, Spain, Japan, the Netherlands, Pakistan, Indonesia, and Portugal. I appreciate each and every one of you for joining me here on Mind, Body, Soul Shift, Thriving After 50, and we are thriving after 50. But mind, body, and soul. We have to, all three are connected. So let's continue to thrive. This is Master Coach G, and I will see you on the next level.